Most computers will have a variety of different audio options when it comes to what audio device you want to use with Cubase. And the first time you launch Cubase, you may have been met with this window for the audio driver setup. And it will give you a list of all of the different audio devices that you have connected to your computer. Some of those might be on the motherboard of the computer, so it'll be the built-in audio. And others of you will actually have purchased a professional audio interface like I have. I'm going to use the Steinberg UR28M. So if you have chosen the proper audio device or the desired audio device that you want to use with Cubase at this time, then you're probably all set. However, if at any time you launch Cubase without that audio hardware connected, it can kind of throw a curveball at you, and I want to show you how to get Cubase back to using the proper audio interface. And that's especially true if you have an audio device that either connects to your computer through USB or through Thunderbolt or FireWire. If you launch Cubase without the last audio device installed, then Cubase will typically reset back to the built-in audio interface, and it won't reconnect to your desired audio interface until you have told Cubase which device you want to use. So let me show you how to do that. I'm going to close the Steinberg Hub for right now, and then since we already went through the registration process, I'm going to click on Already Registered, and that will make sure that I never see that window again. Then I'm going to go under the Studio menu and choose the very last thing in the list, which is Studio Setup. And this window has two columns in it. Right now we're looking at just the left-hand column. But I'm going to click on VST Audio System right here, and then we can see some options on the right side of this window. On the ASIO Driver drop-down menu right here, this is where you choose which audio interface you want to use. So when you click on that drop-down menu, you'll see the exact same list of audio devices that you saw in that initial audio device setup. And here you can choose your audio interface. If I had launched Cubase without my UR28M installed in the computer, then it will probably have reset back to built-in audio. Then I'll have to quit Cubase, reattach the hardware, then start Cubase again, then go to this window and make sure that I have my audio device selected in the window. If you're switching it, it'll ask you if you want to switch or keep the current driver. Just go ahead and click on Switch. And then there's one other thing I want to mention in this window before we move forward, and that is the processing precision. By default, this will be set to 32-bit float. I recommend that unless you have an older computer with maybe only 2 processing cores, that you set the processing precision to 64-bit float. So if your computer is of a newer vintage, something that has 4 cores or more, then this higher bit processing precision will mean that your mixes and the summing of all of these audio channels together into either a stereo output or a surround sound output will actually sound better because there will be fewer rounding errors. The more bits you have, the fewer rounding errors you have. So the only disadvantage to using 64-bit processing is that it takes a little bit more power on your computer, and that's why older 2-core machines will probably struggle a little bit. But again, if you've got a newer computer, use 64-bit. And then you may have noticed that little window that appeared that said that you have to restart Cubase before it will process in 64-bit float. So once you've changed that, just make sure that you relaunch Cubase. And there's a few more things about customizing the inputs and outputs of your audio interface that we'll deal with at another time. But this is the most important thing, to choose the audio device that you want to use for Cubase. And next we're going to talk about configuring your MIDI interface.